the best path forward is diplomacy and a mutual return to compliance with the Iran nuclear deal, the so-called JCPOA. But you're exactly right that path is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And the reason for that is twofold. I think the decision to pull out of the agreement was a disastrous mistake because what's happened since is that Iran has used that as an excuse, despite the maximum pressure applied against Iran, to also renege on its commitments under the agreement and to inexorably rebuild the nuclear program that the agreement had put in a box. And we've seen, particularly over the last months, Iran continuing to move forward, spinning more sophisticated centrifuges, enriching to higher degrees in ways that are profoundly dangerous and that are also dramatically shortening the space that we have for a return to complying with the agreement that would actually recapture the benefits of the agreement. We had 6 rounds of talks before the Iranian elections. We actually made real progress in working through differences and coming close to being able to get to a place where we would have a mutual return with both countries making good on their commitments. Then we had a huge gap after the elections where the new government refused to engage. Now we've had this first round of talks since the new government's in. And what we've seen in the last couple of days is that Iran right now does not seem to be serious about doing what's necessary to return to compliance, which is why we ended this round of talks in Vienna. We're going to be consulting very closely and carefully with all of our partners in the process itself, the European countries, as well as Russia and China, but also with other very concerned countries, with Israel, with the Gulf countries. And we will see if Iran has any interest in engaging seriously. But the window is very, very tight because what is not acceptable and what we will not allow to happen is for Iran to try to drag out this process while continuing to move forward inexorably in building up its program. So we've said all along that if the path to a return to compliance with the agreement turns out to be a dead end, we will pursue other options.
What are those other options?
Well, I'm not going to telegraph that here with you, but we've been doing a lot of work on that, and we've been doing a lot of discussions about that with other countries, with other partners. But here's the bottom line. It is profoundly, I think, in everyone's interests to resolve the nuclear problem diplomatically. It's also the most effective way to deal with it. Indeed, the JCPOA was a very effective agreement, not only in putting the nuclear program in a box, but putting it in a box that had the most effective and intrusive monitoring and inspections regime of any arms control agreement. And there are many other problems, unfortunately, that Iran poses in terms of its conduct, in terms of support for terrorism, support for proxy groups that are destabilizing countries. And those problems, as bad as they are, would be even worse if Iran had a nuclear weapon and felt it could act with even greater impunity. So putting the nuclear problem back in the box, I think, is the first critical piece to dealing with the challenges posed by Iran. And one of the positive things that's happened, even though we have not been able to get back to compliance, one of the positive things that's happened as a result of our re-engagement in the effort to do that is we're now back on the same page with our closest allies and partners. We've been divided. And ironically, the United States was isolated as a result of pulling out of the agreement, not Iran. Well, we're now in a different place. And even Russia and China are clearly frustrated with what Iran is doing or not doing in these talks. So Iran has some very important decisions to make in the days ahead. And as I said, it will not be a case where they can continue to advance their program and tread water on talks. We're either going to get back into compliance with the agreement or we're going to have to look at dealing with this problem in other ways.
I'd like to ask you about Ethiopia, an area that we have covered, a country that we have covered extensively. Thousands have been killed.